For more.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to talk about a very, very important project in my part of the world, and that is the duplication of Main South Road from Seaford to Sellex. November the year before last, the entire cabinet was down doing a community cabinet meeting down in McLaren Vale and Aldinga. We went out door knocking. The then Premier and all the ministers went door knocking, and the biggest issue that kept coming up was the duplication of South Road from Seaford down to Sellex. And it was something that I'd heard a fair bit about. The member for Ghana, who was then had responsibility for Aldinga, had heard a lot of rumblings about it. And there was a very good group established just prior to that called the South Road Action Group. And they were terrific in getting more than 3,000 signatures on a petition to lobby the government to come up with the funding to duplicate Main South Road, to make it a safer road, to accommodate the growing needs of the area, not just around Aldinga and Sellex, but further down the Fleurieu to Maiponga and Yankalilla and Rapid Bay, and further afield to Kangaroo Island, where the tourism numbers continue to boom. So in all of the deliberations around last year's state budget, it was never far from any of our minds as we sat around the cabinet table that this was a really important issue that needed to be addressed. And I was delighted that the then Treasurer, the member for West Torrens, put it in his budget last year, and then had some supplementary money in the mid-year budget review at the end of the year in December to ensure that both stages 1 and 2 could be carried out. When the department came out with their initial plans, they were indicative, as you do when you put out a bit of a plan, and they had some roundabouts put on the images. And of course, the people of the local area know what works well for the local area. So again, the Main South Road Action Group sprung to action and said there's got to be a better way of doing this. And so we had a community forum, of which the Action Group was there, and probably about 45, 50 other members of the community. The member for Lee, who was then the Minister for Transport, came along, as did the then CE of the department and some senior staff, which was terrific to have the local community being able to get direct access to the Minister and senior members of the staff. And it was made clear that night that these were just indicative drawings, and that there was $435 million there, and that money could be used to build the best possible new road that looked after local residents. Now, the group behind the South Road Action Group, they are keen to see overpasses or underpasses at all major intersections there, rather than roundabouts. And I think that's a really good idea, and that came across that night in the discussions, and the then Minister thought it was a good idea. The senior members of DIPTI thought it was a good idea. So then after that, the Friends of South Road Action Group were constant in their attendances on Saturday mornings down at the Aldinga Central Shopping Centre, and I was there with them a lot of the time as well, to make sure that as people walk past, we could get them to sign a petition. So I have here with me a petition signed by 1,142 people of the local area who are calling on the government to, when looking at the scope of this, to include in the design overpasses, underpasses at those intersections, and to make sure that we have the very best design in this duplicated road from Seaford through to Sellex. So I'll be sending a copy of this petition through to the new Minister for Transport and Infrastructure, and hope that we can all work together, because as I mentioned in my speech here this morning, is we get a lot more done by working together and collaborating rather than having fights with each other. So I've already sent the Minister probably about 11 or 12 letters in the past week. We gave him a little bit of time to settle in, as I mentioned to him yesterday, and said, I'm not trying to bombard you, but there are a fair few issues. And again, we're just setting about this in the right possible way. But I want to thank the members of the Main South Road Action Group. Craig Curtis, the head of that group, has brought the petition in here today, but also to Dale Grimmond, Adrian Polst, Holly Freeland, Fred Shields, Jess Sweet, Cheryl Battick, Stephen Els, Barry Bash, Aslan Storm, and Onkapringa Mayor and member of the group, Lorraine Rosenberg. Thank you so much for the time and the dedication that you've put in to be real leaders within your community. This is sort of democracy at work at the coalface, if you like, and you've been very professional in the way that you've dealt with not only me, but Andy Gilfillan, who was the Liberal candidate who ran for the seat of Mawson as well. And I commend you on the great work that you have done. You're a pleasure to deal with, and I look forward to working with you. Work on this should start next year, 2019, and look forward to working on you in the planning and the building.
The member for Mount Gambier.
Over here.